Welcome back to the Real Personal Branding Podcast. My name is Lauren B. Davis, and I love interviewing successful entrepreneurs and solopreneurs about how they have built incredible businesses just by being themselves and really staying true to their personal brand. Today's guest is Keri Murphy. You may have seen her before. She's a veteran of television, so she's had tons of appearances on MTV, E, Fox, NBC, ABC, just to name a couple. And Keri brings her hard-won entrepreneurial knowledge and on-camera expertise to her clients through public speaking, coaching programs, and her company Inspired Living. Her goal is to help entrepreneurs stay inspired, stay enlightened on what it takes to build a seven-figure brand. So in this short and powerful interview today with Keri, you're going to learn how to leverage traditional media coverage in the most efficient way, a couple mistakes she wants you to avoid on video, and how to start crafting your video strategy. You can start today. So I am more than excited to bring you this interview with Keri Murphy. I hope you enjoy. Keri, you are so incredible, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the Real Personal Branding Podcast. And you have helped entrepreneurs go from best kept secret to being the go-to expert in their industry by using video powerfully and purposefully and authentically. And you've proven this again and again with multiple clients, multiple people that you work with groups that you teach and you coach. And I would love to hear a little bit more about your history. So how did you come into this line of work? And tell me a little bit more about your story.
Oh, well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the great intro. It's so great to be here. You know, I love so much helping people step into their vision, share their message, make a difference, make money. Like, it's all good, right? That's inspired living. And, you know, it's so funny for me, Lauren, because growing up, I always had the itch to be on camera. I grew up in a very entertainment focused family. My grandmother was a professional singer. My uncle was a musician. There's just lots of entertainment in my family. And so I knew one day I was going to grow up and host this national TV show.
Cool.
And so I begged my mom for years to put me into this little modeling and acting school in my town where I grew up, which is Portland, Oregon. Okay. And she put me in when I was 11. Now, Lauren, I don't know if you remember or any of our listeners remember today, 11 years old. Like, is that not the most unsexy time of probably adolescent life, right?
Yes,
oh
very
gosh,
much.
I was so awkward. But I will say that I just fell in love with being on camera. And, you know, I really wanted to be a supermodel growing up in the 80s. And so, long story longer, you know, I took these little classes. I fell in love with it. I fell in love actually with hosting, which is different than acting, because as a host, you are being yourself, but you're just like super polished, right? So, and it took me a minute to get polished at all. But, you know, fast forward, I started my first business when I was 23. And I was the local interior design expert. It was an interior design business. And I was always using video to grow my business. I didn't know it, but I was on commercials and I was doing local stuff. And so I had a 6-figure business in my 20s, but then I have what I call the 5-year itch. And so at about 5 years, I was getting complacent, kind of bored, you know, like so many entrepreneurs, working for myself, by myself. And even though I loved the result, that's why I love helping entrepreneurs build beautiful brands. Like, I love a beautiful aesthetic. It wasn't fulfilling my soul. And I say this because I think it's really important that no matter where you're at in your entrepreneur journey, you follow that. Like, you follow that compass. Like, is this really my jam, or am I just doing this because I think I should? So my mom was looking through the paper one day, Lauren, and she saw one of those little teeny ads that was for a modeling school that was for sale, a modeling agency. And so she called me and she said, Keri, there's a modeling agency for sale. I'm 27. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, that sounds amazing. But if I was to own an agency, I'd want to have actors too. So fast forward, 30 days later, my mom and I had bought that agency. We both put $15,000 down at 27 years old. And it was the agency I actually went through as a little girl. So, and I worked for her for 5 years after college, the 5-year itch. And so I came back, I bought it. Within 5 years, we grew from 150,000 to almost $1 million. And then the 2008 recession hit. So I'm dating myself and aging myself, but this is all so important because it goes to who and what we do today and why. But I hope someone else can see themselves in my story, that sometimes like devastating things happen. Losing the talent agency for me, Lauren, was incredibly gut wrenching. And even though it was quite some time ago, you know, those moments that you just still can put yourself back there and you remember it like yesterday.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
those moments that either it's you're crying so hard you can't breathe, or you're wondering why this is happening to me,
Hmm.
or and perhaps you're not quite old enough to experience those yet, but I'm sure, you know, we all do. It's human nature. It's being
Yeah.
a human being on the planet. But at that moment, after I put in air quotes lost it all, because I say sometimes you have to lose it all to step into it all, you
Hmm.
know. And so I packed up everything I owned. I short sold my home. I moved to LA, signed with one of the top agencies out here. I had this aha moment watching someone on video, saying to myself, oh my gosh, I can teach entrepreneurs how to be on camera. So I had been teaching acting for, at that point, 20 years. Like I'd been an entrepreneur for 10. Like I knew that I could help the average person show up authentically. And that's kind of how Inspired Living started. There's so much more story, but I know we have
Yeah.
a short time. But that was really the evolution. It was like taking that thing that I always loved to do, but then letting it evolve with me as I grew. And even with the talent agency, I was an on air talent. I was still working on air. I was hosting, I was doing spokesperson work, which you can get away with in Portland. You can't do that in LA. You know, so I feel like it was also serendipitous to bring me here now, where we specialize in teaching entrepreneurs how to authentically show up on camera and create inspired brands.
Oh, wow. That story is so great. The thing about entrepreneurs is we do all follow these very crazy paths. You know, we're solopreneurs, freelancers, coaches, and consultants. No one ever just wakes up and is like, oh, okay, I'm a business owner and I'm an entrepreneur now and everything is fine. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we're all like that meme of the dog sitting surrounded by fire saying, it's fine, it's fine. You know, working towards true fulfillment and being authentically ourselves in our businesses. And that's what I love that you talk about, is how people can actually show up authentically online using video. And I know you work with tons of inspired entrepreneurs now, like what you were talking about. You help them put their messages out there into the world. And I was wondering if you see that there's a mistake that entrepreneurs often make when they first start trying to brand themselves and get media coverage and get on video more often, and maybe what they can do to fix that mistake.
I love this question so
Okay.
much because there are many. So
Yeah.
let me share a couple of them. The number one thing that I see that is the major disconnect, because I want to go back to video is all about authentic emotional connection.
Hmm.
Authentic emotional connection. So if there is any part of your ego that is telling you quietly as you're pressing record, who are you to do this? You're not good enough to do this. You're not pretty enough. You're not thin enough. You're not young enough. You're not old enough. You're not whatever. We cannot authentically show up to serve someone else. So the number one thing I say when it comes to using video is video's not about you. Video is not about you. Video is about reaching the one person who needs to hear your message. And that brings me to mistake number two, is that the average person who is using video is not, they have no idea who they're talking to. So not only are they stuck in their head about what they look like and what they should say and all of these things, they say, hi, everyone, welcome. There's no emotional connection because no one knows who you're talking to. And in fact, you don't know who you're talking to. And we feel that, right? We feel
Yeah.
that. And so I always say to people, stop trying to catch the ocean. Like speak to one person at a time. And here's the beautiful thing about that. When you speak to one person, two things happen. Fear starts to dissipate. What
Mhm.
that means is that you're no longer thinking about you, because you can't think about you and think about someone else at the same time, right?
True. True.
Ooh, right? So when you press record, when you know that you're speaking to one person, your girlfriend, your ideal client, your neighbor, whoever it is that you know needs your thing, like speak to that person. Speak to
Mhm.
that person. So fear dissipates and you come across more authentic and emotionally connected, because you cannot be in your head and be in your heart at the same time. So if you're one of those people who memorizes your script, or puts out notes and thinks we don't realize it, right? We do. And I tell people you're so much better off having a couple bullet points and just speaking through the camera lens. I say the camera is a conduit. It's an energy source. It's like a tunnel between you and the one person, one set of eyeballs that's watching you at the moment. You have 3 to 8 seconds to keep and capture someone's attention once they press play. That's it. So if you don't get them right away, if you say, "Hi everyone, I'm Keri. I'm so amazing because I've done this and I do this," and like no one resonates with that. So my third tip and the biggest mistake is people start with them. People
Okay.
make their videos all about them. Now, story is amazing. And I hope in my story that I shared, someone could see themselves in my story. Like, oh my God, I lost my business too. Or, I wanted to do that. Or I felt the same way. That's why we shall share stories, right, Lauren?
Right.
But what I will say is that when people make their videos about them for too long, the person on the other side can't connect. So that's why I share always start with why, that WIFM that probably you've heard if you've been in marketing, right? That what's in it for me. And if I may, can I do a little example of the difference?
Please do an example.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me get into it. All right. So the first one is about me. Hi, I'm Keri Murphy, and I know that you have a fear of video, but I can tell you I can help you because I've been on camera for over 3 decades and an entrepreneur for over 22. And I love helping entrepreneurs share their message and create, income producing, inspired brands that make a difference.
Great. Okay.
Cut. All right. Take two.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that you have this rumbling in your belly, this tugging in your soul to make a bigger difference, to share a story that has incredible impact in your life. And you know that if other people heard this story, that you would make an impact on their life as well. And you have these amazing products and services that can transform lives, but you don't know how to get it out there. And you're frustrated because you feel stuck. You feel like the best kept secret. And yet you know you're here to make a massive difference. I'm Keri Murphy, and I get it because I so often felt like that too. And when we work together, I'm going to teach you how to get over that fear, get clear on your message, and share your story so you can feel like you're making the difference you're here to make.
Oh,
All
I
right.
love it. Such
So,
a huge difference there. There's a
such a
giant.
huge
Yeah.
difference, right? So, and this takes a little bit of practice,
Yeah.
but this is when I talk about, demographic versus psychographic, Lauren, like not just understanding when people say, who is your ideal avatar? Who is your ideal client?
Yes.
Yes, it's important to know because there's like 7 billion people on the planet and you want to know who you're attracting, but it's not, it isn't about how much money they make, where they live, how many children they have, how old they are. That all is important for you to understand. That's the demographic. But what I teach, Lauren, is the psychographic.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know the emotional state of the person you're trying to reach. Are they frustrated? Are they overwhelmed? Are they confused? Are they curious? Are they excited? Are they like, where are they at? And then meet them where they are with your intro to your video. That's when you get people to say, oh my gosh, you're talking to me. Like, how does she know what I'm thinking? How does he know what I'm thinking? And that is the best compliment you can ever get.
Yeah, that's exactly actually how I teach social media to people. They feel very overwhelmed by social media. They feel very overwhelmed by digital marketing in general. And when we talk through it and we determine who their audience, a lot of times they'll come up with those demographic pieces, like,
Yeah.
oh, they live here and they make this much money and they are a male or a female, or they are, like they'll come up with these demographic things. And I'm like, well, what are their values? Like, what is the
Yes.
thing that they're dreaming about, or that they wake up saying, I can't believe I didn't do this again? Or like, what are those things? Because when we can really identify what those things are, then we can really show up for those people on social media the way that we want to. And it
Yeah.
shouldn't just be like, oh, we're picking out a person, an ideal client out of the woodwork either. It should be someone that we are really aligned to, right?
Yeah.
Like someone that we feel, okay, this is the person that I want to serve. This is the type of person that when I serve them, it lights me up inside
Yep.
to see them win. So I love that you talked about that. I do have a question because you brought up it can look so much better if you are just being authentic, talking, you don't have notes, you're not reading from a script. And many times when I'm working with someone or even with myself with this podcast, sometimes I do write out certain things because I'm
Sure.
so afraid that I'm going to fill the space with ums and ahs and thinking noises because I make a lot of thinking noises and I say a lot of the same words over and over again, and that it bothers me. So I've tried practicing over time to kind of get rid of some of those things, and I've done a little better over time. But I wonder what kind of advice you have for people who are just starting out and they're really uncomfortable just listing bullet points because maybe they're not great at thinking on the spot right away like that, or kind of like not BSing because you're talking about something very genuine and important, but coming up with those ideas right there at the front of your head. Do you have any ideas for that?
I do. And I first of all just want to say, you're human,
Yeah.
right? You're human. And when we start out, again, ego comes in, that fight or flight, that, oh my gosh, who am I talking to? So again, going back to that. But Lauren, I will say that when you have to write it all out, here's what happens. You write it all out and then you memorize it, right? Or you
Mm,
try to memorize it. And what happens is you start pressing record and your brain automatically starts thinking about the script, right?
mm-hmm.
So, unless it is memorized and you're really probably like a trained actor that can emote and remember your words,
Right.
it's very challenging because it will come across as a little bit stagnant, maybe a little stale, maybe monochromatic. You know, when you press record and everyone like they're up here and they're talking this way the whole time, and it just is like this super high level, and
Yeah.
that's not normal. So I still would encourage you to always start with why. Why does the person need to care about this video, about what you're saying? So it could be anything. You could talk about, when's the last time you took a vacation? Are you like me, like dreaming of the next vacation? How amazing would it be to have enough money in your bank account that you didn't stress about it and enough time on your calendar that you could take it without freaking out? Like in
Yeah.
this video, I'm going to teach you my top 3 productivity tips that are going to allow you to take that dream vacation. Do you see what I'm saying? And I
Mm-hmm.
am just making this up as I go.
Yeah.
But when you start with the why, you're going to get automatic engagement and it keeps you connected to what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying. Then I would write out 3 bullet points. Here's the thing. You, me, the person listening right now, we know more than we think we do. In fact, I'm just going to go and say that we know a lot more about what we do than the person listening. And so we have to trust ourselves. Like, I know that if I write out 3 bullet points and you could stick it on your monitor. So here's my screen and I can stick it right to the monitor. It's in my peripheral view. I
Mm-hmm.
can see my bullet points because every time you look away from the camera, you break rapport with the person watching. Right.
Mm.
So if you have to do it a little bit, that's okay. But if you are looking away every few seconds, first of all, don't think we don't notice. And two, like you're not kidding anyone. It's not authentic. So 3 bullet points, Lauren, you can do it. 3 bullet points, and then know your call to action. What do you
Yeah.
want them to do at the end? That's super, super important. That is the most valuable video time is at the end. Never say thank you. It is not a performance. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to drop an emoji? Do you want me to comment? Do you want me to subscribe? Do you want me to buy your thing? You know,
Mm-hmm. This is
but I absolutely
great.
think you can do it. You can do it. It just, video is a muscle just like anything else you do for the first time. Brene Brown says something I love. She's like, you have to embrace the suck. And when I heard that, it made me chuckle. But it's so true that when we start out doing anything, we have these great ideas of how we're going to show up and what it's going to be. But when you start out anything, you have to embrace the suck. You have to embrace being uncomfortable so you can actually be great.
Oh, I love it so much. I love that phrase because it just gives us permission to be ourselves and to take that deep breath and move forward through our lives, really showing up as who we are. So
Yeah.
you're a veteran of TV appearances. You've been on MTV, Fox, NBC. Those are just a few of the many ones that you've been on. And a lot of my clients are launching a book, they're launching a product, they're creating programs, but then also some of my clients are small, locally owned businesses. So those are my two kind of sections that I really talk about a lot. So I kind of want to talk about both of those things because some of these smaller businesses, even local media coverage can do can make a huge difference to them.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. Yep. And I love working on getting them those opportunities to shine through the media. But as someone who spent a lot of time on TV and video, what is the best way that you think entrepreneurs can leverage media to really grow and build their brand?
Mm. Well, first of all, I agree with you that nothing is more really powerful than getting on the media. And here's the great thing: it's free. It's free.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people I had to audition to be on camera growing up. I got told no so many times. And now we have what I call $1 million assets at our fingertips, right? And even though there are publicists out there that are amazing, you don't need one. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, we teach you as well how to pitch to the media, who to pitch to in the newsroom, who should you pitch to for the local morning show. In fact, when I owned my talent agency and my interior design business, I was the expert on our local morning show because I built the relationship with the reporter and she loved me. She knew I was great on camera. I provided, great content. So first of all, know your expertise. I think that's really important because if you don't know what you specialize in, it's just too noisy in the marketplace right now. So a lot of what I'm teaching my entrepreneurs to do right now is really shift from generalist to specialist. It's so much easier for the media to pick you up when you are the go-to person in mental health, when you're the go-to person in defending police officers, when you're the go-to person in fitness and lifestyle. So like figure out how you can specialize what you do. And then as far as media goes, Lauren, it's all about how you show up, right? So you might get this segment on the morning show. It's 3 minutes if you're lucky. So again, understanding how to be interviewed, which again, we have a reporter on my team that does the practice, because how many times have you watched a show, your local morning show or the news, and they interview someone and it is like the most painful thing to watch.
Many
Right? Oh,
times.
come on.
Yeah.
Like so many times.
Yeah.
And so it's not just getting on the media, it's how do you leverage that? How do you use it to actually build your brand and to get customers and, to really show up as that go-to expert in your community? When I owned my talent agency, people would ask me all the time, should I move to Los Angeles? And I would say, unless you are booking every single week in Portland and you are known and you are rocking it, no. Like become a big fish in a small pond before you get eaten by sharks, right, in the huge ocean. And
Right.
what I mean by that is no matter where you are in the country, no matter where you are in the world, there are thousands of media outlets online and off that are looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, so many of our clients, including myself for the Golf Channel, they found me on YouTube. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not kidding. I
Wow.
got my first national hosting show because they found me on YouTube. One of my clients, Caitlin, she's a realtor. She specializes in new home buyers. She just got asked to audition for a show for HGTV. So I want to say it's about consistently showing up so the reporter feels comfortable and they feel like you are the person to have on. Build the relationship, be consistent with the pitches. One of my girlfriends who is on the media all the time, her team sends out 80 pitches a week.
Wow.
Yeah, 80 a
Wow.
week. Insane. But that's how you're constantly her schedule's always full because they're
Mm-hmm.
just constantly pitching. So you have to remember it's not personal, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not personal. They're just everyone is feeding the media beast.
Mm-hmm.
And I also one last tip, Lauren, it's really important to understand how you serve their audience because if you say, "Oh my god, I'm releasing a book and I'm so amazing and I want to talk about it." They're going to be like, that's great. And we don't care. But
Yeah.
when you say, hey, I have a book on how to overcome depression after COVID, and this is going to talk about mental health and how we can all start feeling better. And I think it could really serve your audience of the demographic 35 to 55, which is women, which is mostly what watches those shows. Then they're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Our viewers would really love this. So do your due diligence. Like
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't pitch the same thing to Forbes that you would to Good Morning America.
Sure.
So know your target, know why you, and then be consistent with putting yourself out there. I hope I answered the question. I get
Yeah.
excited about it because when you have those as seen on logos,
Mm-hmm.
people will just assume that, wow, she must know, he must know what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. My brain is kind of like turning right now because I'm working with someone who's launching a book and we are kind of getting ready to do some pitches here. And it's not necessarily a book that fits into the whole like, oh, this is something that will help you after COVID, or this is something that will do this. It's more of like a business book. And so I wonder, especially in times like this, like after a year like 2020, when, people are searching for that kind of content, if it's smart to launch a book during that time, how you can make it applicable to current and relevant events, because it does seem like there is something, new every day. And I definitely have some
Yeah.
of my ideas, but I'd be definitely curious to hear what you have to say about that.
I think any topic can be
Mm-hmm.
relevant if you know how to tie it in to current events,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anything. Business? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so many people right now are looking to build their business, grow their business, scale their business. In fact, all of my peers that have 7 and 8 figure businesses,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, are thriving because they figured out how to connect with their ideal client
Right.
virtually, right? We've all made the pivot. But I will say that, again, any topic can be relevant if you know how to tie it in to current events, life events, what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about that, it can be health and fitness, it can be business, it can be relationships. Think about all the relationships that have suffered this last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that you absolutely, this is a great time to launch a book. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out what's in it for me. Why do
Yeah.
I care?
Oh, so interesting. So great. Okay, so you can have a talent, you can have skill, tons of knowledge, an overwhelming amount of knowledge, right? And this can all be in your brain as an entrepreneur, but without strategy, a lot of
Mhm.
times those things can become lost. So, how do you turn all of that knowledge into creating your very own video strategy for your business and for growing your personal brand?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say hire a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much, as business owners and as entrepreneurs, we are so visionary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's happening right now, because there's so much content online and, self education, it's like we're also hungry for it. We're all taking the free challenges and the master classes. And I put those on too, and they're great. But learning is not the issue, it's the implementation that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people that being great on camera but not having a strategy behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
is death to your business, right? How many people do you know? I know quite a few that might have an amazing following, but they're broke,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they make a lot of money and they're not online at all. So strategy is so important. In fact, in my masterclass, I have a whole session that is strategy versus spaghetti, like how to create the ultimate marketing plan. But I do want to give a quick tip, and that
Yeah.
is, first of all, be consistent. With video, with sending emails out to your list, with showing up online. And I know it can seem so arduous and overwhelming, but my tip is I shoot one production day a month for my video blog, and then I let my team take it from there. Now, if you're at a place where you don't have a team, you could use things like Fiverr, Upwork. There's so many people out there that can edit your video and help you with copy, and it's not expensive, right? But I want to start with saying that you are not meant to do everything on your own. In fact, I think it's the biggest crutch of most new business owners is that they try.
Mm-hmm.
you know I would say, as soon as you can, get a VA or get someone to help you a couple hours a week to implement the strategy, so you're out there doing your genius work, sharing your message, getting the clients, working with your clients, but you have someone behind the scenes sending out your emails, editing your videos, helping you with copy. So I wanted to start with just be consistent. If that's once a month, although I don't recommend that, it takes 25 times for someone to see you before they
Mm-hmm.
make a buying decision. So if you're sending out an email or a video once a month, that's 25 months that someone
Right.
has to see you. Okay. So let's
Yeah.
shorten that curve.
Yeah.
So I would say at least once a week. And here's the thing, we have our phones. You can go live once a week. You can
Mm-hmm.
do an Instagram story. Again, we have these $1 million assets sitting in our hand
Mm-hmm.
that you can use and build into your strategy. Right. So,
Absolutely. And I want to point out that there is a difference between posting consistently, authentically, and with quality, and also just hiring a company to put out 100 videos for you with no strategy behind it whatsoever. Because there
A
is,
to the man, A to the woman.
yeah,
Yes.
I see a lot of agencies building out these programs where it's just a whole bunch of video, and it's almost like there's no strategy behind it. There's no real content behind it. I don't want people to feel like, oh, if I'm just there, then it works, right?
Yeah.
If my video is just there and my content is just there, then people will connect with me, because it doesn't really work like that. But, I do think there is like this line between, okay, I want to be consistent, I want to show up once a week, and then the people who just kind of offload it and, okay, put 25 videos out, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
So you're
nothing
right.
will happen.
Yes,
I just want to be like,
exactly.
nothing will happen. And here's the funny thing. I do have support from my social on my business pages. My
Yeah.
personal pages are 1,000% me, but my team and I, they do help me. And then I go in and I correct the copy
Mm-hmm.
to make sure it sounds like me, it looks like me. We have a strategy for each day. We know what we're putting out every week and what
Mm-hmm.
content we want to put, what events we're trying to, get people at. So everything that we do is strategic. But I just want to say still, a couple times a week, I do a live or I'll post personally.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time I do this, the engagement is higher, the likes are better. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a team and we have a strategy. We have a beautiful page and we have beautiful images, but people can still feel when it's coming from you versus coming from someone else. Now, I put a lot of me into my social. I don't let anything go up that I haven't looked at and haven't approved. But when I'm really speaking from the heart and in the moment, people can tell. Like
Mm-hmm.
always. So I think that just you could throw up a meme, you could throw up a video, you could throw up random crap all day and it won't connect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And social media is all about engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not engaging, if you're throwing out this curated content that doesn't have any meaning behind it just to build out your brand, it will be flat because no one's going to engage with that.
Right. A lot of times, like when I'll do a master class or something for someone's group, or I'll teach a call at the end with the Q&A, I'll have almost every time somebody asks the question like, I heard you need to post 3 reels a week and 6 stories a week and 3 videos and 4 posts, and then you'll get good engagement. I'm like, don't just create content to create content.
Yeah.
That's not the point. Like, the reason why sometimes that works for people is because they're being consistent and they're consistently showing up. It's not because they're just putting out content.
Right.
So, like, don't force yourself to create something that's not there, but challenge yourself to create something that's really you and really there and quality, and do
Yes.
that consistently. However, whatever consistency means to you. So if you can do
Yep.
that twice a week, great. If you can do it once a week, great. But like, don't just force create content to create it for the sake of someone on TikTok told you that's the key to engagement, you
Yeah,
know?
I need to unlock the algorithm.
Yes.
Like I need to do it.
Yes.
And I
So,
really appreciate that you said that too,
yeah.
because I mean, even over here where we are, building a big business and we
Mhm.
have a big team, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do more reels and I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I feel it too, like the
Yeah, we all
pressure.
do.
But what I would say is that, like you said, like you have to find what's most authentic to you. If
Hmm.
reels aren't authentic to you, then people are going to see that anyway. I mean, here's the thing though, all these platforms, and I know Lauren, you teach this, but they all have these tools that they want us to use. And the
Right.
more you use them, the more they're going to say, thank you so much for using them. We're going to keep pushing you out. That's
Hmm.
why lives are so amazing. It's not just the engagement you get during it, it's the engagement you get after it, right? Because they're pushing it
Yes.
out. But again, if it's not authentic to you, I cannot tell you how many people tell me, and mark my words, I may or may not choose to join. But you need to be on TikTok. You need to be on TikTok. Everyone's on TikTok. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel authentic to me right now. Now, I might change my mind in 30 days or in 3 years because I
Hmm.
know it's a great platform. But if it doesn't feel authentic, if it feels like, God, just one more thing to do, I would say, wouldn't you agree, Lauren? It's better to be consistent on 2 or 3 than try to be on everything. There's no strategy. You're just throwing crap out there.
Hmm.
I think it's so important to like know where your audience is and just be consistent for them.
Yeah, I think what I teach people is
And you're going to tell me to be on TikTok and I don't want to hear
no,
it.
no, what I teach them is to be consistent, and be consistent with a few things first, and then add on something once you feel really comfortable there.
Great advice.
Because it's really good to challenge yourself to lean into new platforms. Because
Yeah.
I remember when Instagram first came out and people said, oh, that's just for teens. There's only teens use Instagram. Now they're like TikToks. Oh, that's just for dancers. Like, people
Yeah.
just
It's
dance on
not. I
TikTok.
know it's
And
not.
it's
It's
and
just, yeah.
I yeah, you're not saying that, but this is what I hear, and so I just think back to when people would say Instagram's just for teens, and now
Yeah.
all of the people who leaned into Instagram have great followings and are very connected with their audience there.
Yep.
Instagram's by far my favorite place to actually hang out. So
Yep.
I
Me
know
too.
Yeah, and I wasn't a teen when Instagram came out. So I feel like it's really good to lean into new platforms and to challenge yourself to understand them and to not overlook them as something that's just for Gen Z or just for the younger generation,
It's so
because
true.
it changes. And I always tell people it only takes about 6 years for someone to jump age brackets, like on a form. You think like, oh, it's an age bracket like so far away. No, it takes 6 years. You're on a different
Wow.
age bracket, and
Yeah,
six
I don't
years
like
goes
that
by
age bracket
real
when I'm
fast.
clicking it right now. I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
I'm in this age bracket?" But that's a really good point, Lauren. And just to age myself even more, I will never forget when I joined Facebook and I was on MySpace. I'm
Me
so
too.
dating
Me too.
myself. Okay, all right. But I'm like, I'm not going to get on Facebook. Like,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Why would I get on Facebook? And then, of course, I mean, I would say that before COVID, we probably got maybe 50 to 60% of our clients online. And since we've moved everything online, we get 90% of our clients. We
Mm-hmm.
probably get 10 referrals, like people always bring people in, but we host a masterclass every 8 weeks in my
Mm-hmm.
private Facebook group. It has about 6,000 members. Like these, I cannot imagine life without these platforms, but I also want to say it's very important that as we're moving on right now, that we don't put all of our eggs in a one platform basket,
Exactly.
and I think that's really important because you might be seeing great results on Facebook, but right now Facebook ads are the biggest pain in the booty that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So we can't put all of our eggs in that basket. I think it's really important that as entrepreneurs we understand that the goal of social media is to get them off social, is to get them on your website, on phone calls, like filling out your form, downloading your free
Mm-hmm.
gift. Like if you're only building relationships in those platforms, we don't know what can happen with any of them,
Yeah, we don't
right?
own we don't own
Look at
any
look
of
at
that.
Periscope, hot one minute, gone the next. So
Yep.
it's so important that you diversify and that you're building your list because that's what you own. You don't own any of your social media pages. Let's
Nope.
be clear. So
Absolutely. 100% agree. Cheers to that with our coffees.
yes,
So, one last question for you that I would love to know is, what is a big myth that you would love to debunk about video, or about starting video, or about entrepreneurs using video? Something that you hear all the time and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to set the record straight on this.
I have to lose 10 pounds.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one.
Stop
That's a
it.
really good one.
Stop it. You do not. In fact, Oprah Winfrey, you might know her. She's kind of a big name. She was told for years she didn't
Mhm.
have a face for TV, right? And her and so many very successful entrepreneur celebrities were told no a million times. Jamie Kern Lima, who started It Cosmetics, that sold for
Mm.
1.2 billion to L'Oreal, largest acquisition in beauty history. One of the investors that ended up not investing with them told her that it was he didn't think that she would be successful. People wouldn't buy beauty products from someone that looked like her. What the F? Are you kidding me? So especially because my audience is primarily women, I have to say video has nothing to do with what you look like. It has to do with what you be like. Now, do we
Mhm.
want to look good? Do we want to feel confident? Did I launch a beauty kit so you can feel good? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, people aren't buying what you look like. They're buying who you are. They're buying your values. They're buying your amazing product and service. People buy people, not things, right? And you have to be relatable and vulnerable in your video. So stop trying to be perfect because literally the more you try to be perfect, the more poison it is to you and your business. So it's like those two things. Like get over yourself. Feel good, do what you need to do, and then know that video's not about you. You do not need to lose 10 pounds. It doesn't matter your shape or size. In fact, one of my good friends, Lisa Nichols, built a huge company and she was a plus size woman. Like amazing message. This woman, she gets on a stage and you're either in tears or in chills. Like she's amazing. And then she lost a bunch of weight and she's still super successful. Like Lisa didn't change.
Mhm.
It was still her the whole time. And so I really need people to hear that because your message matters. You matter regardless of what you feel. Like your insecurity is keeping someone else from getting an amazing result in their life. And shame on you.
Thank you for that. That's really important to hear, and a lot of people struggle with this. Doesn't matter if you're medium sized or middle sized, or if you're plus size, if you're petite, small, tall, like we
I'll
all
tell you
have
what,
these
Lauren, when I owned my talent
insecurities, you know?
agency and I was repping these like 5'10" size 1 models,
Mhm.
they were just as insecure,
Mhm.
right, as the average everyday woman. Like, we are human beings. We're
Mhm.
never going to love ourselves. Well, I hope we do, but never like be like, oh my God, I'm so perfect. Everything about me is amazing. Unless you're Kim Kardashian. But even then I would think that she has
I think they
insecurity
even
too.
have their
That's why she looks the way she does, right? Tangent, I digress. But I think that at the end of the day, understanding that it's really, again, video's not about you, it's the
Mhm.
people you serve. And the more you understand your authentic voice, your authentic way of being,
Mhm.
and you express that to the world. Think about it. Brene Brown, Glennon Doyle, Gary Vee, like the people, the bigger the personality, the bigger the brand,
Mhm.
right? And so stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to say everything right. No one connects with that. Be you.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Thank you so much. This has been a great interview, and I would love to know where people can connect with you, because a lot of times people like to reach out and say, "Hey, I love this episode," or "This really meant a lot to me." Where can they find you?
I would love that so, so much. Please reach out. Let me know if you are inspired and ready to get on camera. I'm across social media at Inspired Living. I am on Instagram quite a bit. We do run that private video confidence and conversion masterclass in my Facebook group. But I would say either hook me up. I didn't mean to say that. DM me on Instagram.
Okay.
Don't hook me up. I'm already taken. It's good. Um, but also, Lauren, people always ask me, like, what equipment do I need? How do I get started? How do I set up my home studio? And so we created a Be Studio Ready guide that you can download. That's a beautiful PDF that walks you through beginner video equipment, how to set up your studio so it looks amazing. And they can get that at inspiredliving.tv, like television.
Awesome. We'll put that link inside the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being here today, Keri. This has been a great interview, and I'm so happy that we got to do this.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Real Personal Branding Podcast with my guest, Keri Murphy. You can find any links we mentioned in the show notes of this episode, as usual, at laurendaviscreative.com/show. So I would love for you to join my free Facebook group. It's called Understanding Social Media Marketing for Entrepreneurs. But recently, I've had a few people reach out after a podcast interview or after a podcast they liked and ask how they can spend some time learning with me. The first place I always send them to is that free Facebook group I mentioned. But for one-on-one time, I open 3 spots a month for 90-minute coaching calls. If this is something that interests you, feel free to visit the link on my Instagram to book one of those calls. There's never any pressure to continue working with me as a coach, but sometimes just like a 90-minute coaching session can do wonders for building your personal brand. You can ask as many questions as you want. I'll answer absolutely as many questions as I can in a 90-minute period, and we can work through whatever you are working on as far as building your personal brand and your marketing strategy. So I would love to chat. If that interests you, let's connect. Again, that link is in my Instagram bio. Thank you for tuning into the Real Personal Branding Podcast. I can't wait for next time.